Hi, everyone. I'm Christina Koch. I'm the Research Computing Facilitation Lead for PATH and OSG Services. This session, we're moving away from objects to talk about people and specifically the high throughput computing community. So I want to start with my clicker working and just briefly describe the breadth of our community. So in the first part of this talk, I will focus on what we think of as like users and the user community. But I wanted to highlight that the HTC community is actually quite broad. I've sort of separated users of high throughput computing on the left and providers on the right, but there's overlap between the two, and it can take the form of individuals, groups, projects, collaborations, research, teaching. There's a whole variety of people that we see as being part of this community. To highlight some examples, I've highlighted two users of the OS pool here, Matt Dorsey at North Carolina State and Eric Wright's lab at Pittsburgh, that have gotten a lot of usage out of the OS pool. So they're examples of sort of our research users. I've highlighted EHT here as the project partially because they're giving a talk in the next session, but you've already heard about many of the other large-scale collaborations and projects that use high throughput computing. And Nate, who's listed here, is giving a talk about his research later today, but he's also taught a class in a couple different contexts that uses high throughput computing and teaches distributed computing. So that's a snapshot of the user community, and then the provider community. There's a lot of campuses here today, national labs, different projects and collaborations that are trying to make computing available to their members or constituents. And we don't have a lot of industry representation this week, but some of the tools we develop are used in that context as well. So this is our whole community. Okay, so what are we doing to support them? What are we doing to build community among this diverse group of people? So I will say that even though I'm representing the PATH facilitation team up here, that community building is not the sole responsibility of the facilitation team. And so I do want to really quickly highlight all the teams that are part of our community efforts. So can folks who support campus services raise their hand? And collaborations. Pascal's not raising his hand, but he also supports collaborations. Facilitation, HTCondor developers. Okay, the project office, they're probably not in there. They're probably out at the registration table. The nice folks at the registration table. Global Infrastructure Laboratory, Frank, and production services, operations, software, networking, and security. Keep everything running. That's a lot of people. Okay, so I've highlighted some of the different ways that all of the people who just raised their hands contribute to building community. Some specific things that we do, some specific activities are one-on-one engagement type activities where we meet with people and connect with them via consultations and office hours, training opportunities. So the facilitation team runs monthly OS pool centric training and a summer school each August, the OSG school. We have different communication channels for people to connect with each other. So I think probably many people in this room have at least heard of or seen references to the Condor users mailing list and other lists we maintain and the communications we publish on our website. And then we run community events, whether that's, we run a weekly campus meetup, Pascal organizes a collaborations call, and then obviously this event is a big community event for us to connect people with each other. So those are some of the things that we're doing to invest in community. I'm going to deep dive into one more specific example from the facilitation team around building community around the OS pool, and that's all the events that we've gone to over the past year, a whole variety between hands-on tutorial-like workshops to presentations at conferences, some in person, some virtual. If you are running an event and you would like, oh, it'd be really great to have a little extra support or a little extra firepower from the experts, talk to us. We might say no, we can't necessarily go everywhere all the time, but at least ask us so we know about it and maybe can support you in different ways. So the community activities I described that the facilitation team does, that we do broadly as a project, that I've just described, a lot of them are us speaking to the community. So a new activity or effort that we've started this year is providing a more formal way for members of the OS Pool community to give information to us. And so this is the OS Pool Advisory Group, putting a little bit of that translational computer science into action. And so we're just, this is our first year, we're trying it out. We have 6 members, we've met twice so far, and have covered some basic topics like how do you get information to get started? How do you troubleshoot your jobs? And they've given us really good feedback about our training and the OSG school that we have turned into action items that we're incorporating into how we do things. Along those lines of training, another community activity that we're a part of is supporting courses and workshops. So there's some examples listed on this slide. And again, if there's anybody who is teaching or running a course and wants to incorporate high throughput computing, expand the community that way, we have a link here with some tips and suggestions, and you can always work with us, the facilitation team, for how you want to approach this. And we have a service or a tool called the OS Pool Notebook, where you can access an HTC resource with just a browser. You don't need a full OS Pool account. You can just click, authenticate, and use it. So it's a really good fit for training and courses. Okay, so that's an overview of some of the activities and efforts that we're doing to support and grow and connect our broad high throughput computing community, but there's still more to do. So I want to switch into talking about how do we continue to grow and develop the community. Before I get into my, what are we going to do slide, I want to take a step back and just talk about, why we're doing all this, why this matters. And that's, we want to help researchers who ask questions like, what if? What if you could process thousands of sonar images? What if you could measure not just one plant, but hundreds? We get to hear a talk about the sonar images later today, so stay tuned. And so I stole the quote here from one of Marone's slides. We think that we can help researchers achieve these big goals, to answer these kinds of what if questions. If they have a list of jobs, we can help them. So how do we, at the largest scale possible, spread the word, get people connected, and support them? And there are a lot of people in this room that just raised their hands, but outside this room, there are not a lot of experts in what we do in high throughput computing. Everybody you just saw is really the core of that knowledge, and we have to increase our throughput if we're going to really have as broad an impact as possible. So we do really need, like, both kind of literally and figuratively, a high throughput community to make those things possible. So this is just a few questions I came up with. How can we best leverage local campus or project support staff? Is that feasible? What researchers should hear about us that have never heard about us? What segments of the AI research community would benefit from what we have to offer? And then about our existing community, how do people find us? Why do they stop using us? Why do they never start? These are all open questions and challenges that I would like to hear what folks here have to say. So please come talk to me or anybody on the facilitation team about how we can answers to some of these, address some of these other ideas around community building. We have some things in progress. Hopefully by next week, we'll have a question on our sign-up form about how people heard about us. So we can start gathering that data. That will continue to use the suggestions of our advisory group. They've been very keen on the idea of a community resource that people can contribute to. So I think we want to pursue that. We have still an outstanding action item of pursuing domain-specific relationships and reaching communities that way. And continuing to talk to our campus partners and ask about, how can we support you? What value do we provide? And how can we kind of expand this effort? So this is the place to connect with our community, the high throughput community. So you'll hear from many different segments of the community that I described in the opening throughout the week. So, there's campuses tomorrow, there's researchers today, there's collaborations tomorrow. There's a whole, that's what we're here to do. And so I definitely recommend talk to staff. If you have things that you want to know or get changed, share your opinions, connect with each other, and use this time to build community. If you're having a great conversation, it's okay to miss a talk or two if that's going to pay dividends in sort of your connections and community down the road. So yeah, I'll stop there. Thanks.